Hello and welcome to Raus IAS. This is the Daily News Simplified for the date 18th of October 2024, and for our today's discussion, we have picked up these following 5 articles. 3 articles we will discuss from mains point of view and 2 articles we will discuss from prelims point of view. So before we begin our discussion, we have an announcement to make. The new batches of PSIR optional by Rahul Puri sir are starting on 11th November 2024, and these batches will be started in online as well as offline mode. So for offline mode, the classes will be conducted in the premises of Triumph IAS, the address for which is given on the screen. So let's start our today's discussion with the very first article. Now this article, it appeared on the page number 1 of The Hindu and also in Indian Express. Now this news article is related to a verdict which was given by Supreme Court yesterday. So a 5-judge bench of Supreme Court, which was headed by the Chief Justice of India, in a majority verdict yesterday upheld Section 6A of the Citizenship Act 1955. So in this article, we will be discussing that what is Section 6 of Citizenship Act, how it is related to Assam Accords, and what are the observations of Supreme Court in this issue. Okay, so let's begin our discussion. This news article is important for our GS paper 2, Polity and Governance. Under the syllabus head, Indian Constitution, historical underpinnings, evolution, features, amendment, significant provisions, and basic structure. Now, if we see this theme, in the year 2023, we found a question on 101st Constitutional Amendment Act. In the year 2019, there was a question regarding Parliament's power to amend Constitution and Article 368 of Indian Constitution. Right? Now, let's see Assam Accords. Now, see, after the partition of India in 1947, there was huge influx of immigrants from Pakistan to India, right? And from Pakistan to India, as well as if we talk about Assam in particular, from East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh, to Assam. And this influx of migrants to Assam, it increased in all these decades. And if we talk about 1971, that is the Bangladesh Liberation War, the situation was quite grim in Assam, as there were influx of illegal migrants in huge number. These migrants were both Bengali Hindus as well as Muslims. Okay, so there was a huge influx of migrants in Assam. So in the decade following that, in 1970s and in early 1980s, so there was a huge social as well as political unrest in Assam. So there was a fear among the indigenous population in Assam. So Assam, the majority population is Assamese Hindus. So the indigenous population, they had a fear that there is a demographic change which is going to happen. There will be competition for our limited resources, right? And we will not be able to save our distinct culture and language, right? So there were sentiments built up against illegal immigrants and for deportation of them. Now, following heavy political unrest as well as civil unrest, in the year 1985, there was Assam Accord was finalized. So what is Assam Accord? Assam Accord is a tripartite agreement which was signed between the central government, the state government of Assam, as well as some student union group of Assam, including All Assam Student Union. Okay, so it was a tripartite agreement which had the major objective to identify and deport illegal migrants which have entered Assam, right? And there was a cutoff date which was fixed for it. We will soon see what was the cutoff date. Now, after the signing of Assam Accord in the Citizenship Act 1955, there was an addition to Section 6A. So, in order to bring into effect the provisions of Assam Accord, Section 6A was added to the Citizenship Act 1955. Okay. Now let's see that what are the key provisions of this Section 6A. Now, this Section 6A, it had certain cutoff dates. What are these cutoff dates? The first date is the immigrants who entered Assam before January 1st, 1966, they would be considered as Indian citizens. Okay. The immigrants which entered Assam between January 1, 1966 and March 25, 1971, these immigrants, they would not be given Indian citizenship immediately. Rather, they would be first considered as foreigners or illegal immigrants, and then when they fulfill certain conditions, after which they will be given Indian citizenship. What were these conditions? The first condition was that, see, there would be foreign tribunals which will be established for the identification of these illegal immigrants, right? And when these foreign tribunals will detect any illegal immigrant, then that illegal immigrant will lose his power to vote. That is, for the 10 years after his detection, that illegal immigrant will have no power to vote. And after following his detection, if he continues to live in Assam, and if he continues to uh, uh, to not commit any illegal activity, and then if he registers after 10 years, then he will be considered as Indian citizen. So these were certain conditions which they had to fulfill. Okay. And the third cutoff was that after March 25, 1971, any immigrant who is entering Assam will be declared as illegal immigrant, right? And Section 6A, it outlines the establishment of tribunals or foreign tribunals to detect and verify these foreigners or illegal immigrants in Assam. They would be detected, detained, and deported, right? So it was the onus of state government to establish foreign tribunals, on the state government of Assam to establish a tribunal and identify these illegal immigrants. Okay, so this is what is Section 6A, which was added to the Citizenship Act 1955. Right now, see, there were certain arguments by the indigenous group in Assam which challenged the constitutional validity of Section 6A. There were certain arguments. A few arguments, or the important arguments, are that the first argument said that this Section 6A, it violated Article 14 of Indian Constitution. Now the reasoning was that, see, when our Constitution was adopted on 26 January 1950, so this was the cutoff date when all the people who were residing in India till 26 January 1950, they were automatically the citizens of India. Okay. Now these petitioners say that, see, this Section 6A is regarding the citizenship in Assam. So why there is a different yardstick for ascertaining the citizenship in Assam, whereas in rest of India the yardstick is different, right? So this Section 6A, it only confers citizenship to migrants to Assam. Now this is violating the principle of equality, or Article 14 of Indian Constitution, right? And it also says that, if the second argument is that if curbing Bangladeshi migrants was the issue, then why other border states like, say, Assam, Tripura, and various other northeast states, why this section was not implemented on these states, right? So this is a discriminatory. Okay, this Section 6A is discriminatory to Assam, right? The second argument was that this Section 6A is violative of Article 29 of Indian Constitution. Now see, Article 29 of Indian Constitution is a fundamental right to the citizens of India to preserve their distinct culture and their distinct language script. Okay. Now these indigenous Assamese people, they feared that when citizenship is granted to these immigrants from Bangladesh, this will bring in demographic change in Assam, and they will be not be able to preserve their distinct culture and language. Okay, so this is violative of Article 29. Okay, and the third important argument was that, see, we already have Article 6 and Article 7 in Indian Constitution, which talks about giving citizenship to the people who have migrated from Pakistan. Now, if we already have Article 6 and Article 7, what is the need of adding Section 6A to uh, to the Citizenship Act, right? So, also the petitioners ask that, does the Parliament have the power to make a law regulating citizenship? That what is the power of Parliament? Because this Article 6 and Article 7, which were added to Indian Constitution, they were added by our founding forefathers who enacted our Constitution. But how much power the Parliament has to make laws regarding citizenship? So these were important questions, or these were arguments which were raised by the petitioners, right? And now see, yesterday Supreme Court gave a ruling regards to it, wherein Supreme Court it upheld the constitutional validity of Section 6A. Okay, and what did Supreme Court said? Let's see. The first question: does Parliament have the power to make law regulating citizenship? For which Supreme Court said that clearly there is entry 17 on the Union list, which gives Parliament the power to make laws to address citizenship, naturalization, and aliens. Right. So this is the power which is mentioned in Union list. It is conferred onto Parliament, right? And also Article 11 of Indian Constitution, it says that Parliament can make any provision with respect to the acquisition and termination of citizenship and other matters related to citizenship. And none of the other articles in this part of Constitution, including Article 6 and 7, will not take away this power from Parliament. So clearly Parliament has the power to make laws regulating citizenship. So this was the first observation of Supreme Court. The second observation of Supreme Court was that, with regards to, does Section 6A violates the right to equality? So in this, the Supreme Court said that, see, there was a unique situation which occurred in Assam. And because of this precarious situation, it led to the signing of Assam Accord. Now, this was also because of the reason that the magnitude of influx of these immigrants to Assam, they had, it was of that scale that these illegal immigrants, they could have impacted the cultural and political rights of Assamese and tribal population, and this impact was higher in Assam as compared to other states, for example West Bengal. So because of this unique situation which happened in Assam, so there was a need to add Section 6A to the Indian Citizenship Act. Okay, and also this Section 6A is not violating the right to equality. Rather, this 6A, it is balancing the human rights of migrants versus the cultural and political rights of Assamese population. This is what Supreme Court said. And on the third question, that does granting citizenship to migrants violate the right of Assamese people to conserve their culture? So in this, Supreme Court made a beautiful argument that, see, this argument that granting citizenship to migrant, it violates the rights of Assamese people. This undermines the idea of fraternity. See, fraternity is a word which is present in Indian preamble, right? And fraternity means a sense of brotherhood, a sense of emotional attachment to one's country and one's people, right? So Supreme Court said that, see, we already have Article 29, which is a fundamental right. And Article 29 says that citizens can protect their cultural rights and their culture, their language, their script, right? But see, this Article 29, it is talking. So this Supreme Court gave an inclusive interpretation of Article 29, saying that, see, you have all right to protect your culture, but this doesn't mean that this right will erode away the right of peaceful coexistence of other community. That is, other communities, they can also peacefully coexist, right? So Supreme Court held that the mere presence of different ethnic groups in a state is not sufficient to infringe the right guaranteed by Article 29. And further, we know that fundamental rights, they are not absolute. They are subjected to reasonable restrictions also. Okay, so this is all about this article. Now let's move on to our next article for the day, which is inspired by this news article which appeared on the page number 8 of the Hindu. Now, in this news article, the author talks about the progress India has made in its human development indicators and what is India's sustainable development goal focus. So let's see this issue in detail. Now, this topic is important for our GS paper 2 social justice. Under the syllabus head, issues relating to the development and management of social sector or services related to health, education, and human resources. Right now, in this theme of human resource development, in the year 2023, we found this particular question, which was regarding human resource development, and this that despite high growth, India is still facing the lowest indicators of human development. So, with this on this theme, UPSC had asked questions in GS paper 2, right? Now, let's see. Now, first of all, we will talk about Human Development Index. So, Human Development Index, this is a report which is released by UNDP, United Nations Development Program. So, Human Development Index, it tries to track the progress of any country in certain indicators. There are three dimensions, that is, this HDI index, this will track the average performance of any country on these three dimensions and related four indicators. These dimensions are long and healthy life, that is life expectancy at birth, knowledge, that is expected years of schooling and mean years of schooling in that particular country, and the decent standard of living, and that is judged by gross national income per capita. Okay, so these are the dimensions which are measured in the Human Development Index, and the first such index was released in the year 1990, and since then largely annually this index is released by UNDP. Okay, so latest such index for the year 2023-24 was released by UNDP earlier in this year, and this index it talks about India's progress in Human Development Index. That this index says that early when this index was launched in the year 1990, India's score was 0.4. Okay, on the scale of 0 to 1, where 1 is the highest score, India's score was 0.4. So there are four classifications, that is, there is four classifications in this scale which tells low human development. That is, if the score is less than 0.5, the country has low human development. So earlier in 1990, India was placed here, and now following these years, in these 30 years, India's score is 0.64 in the year 2022, and now we are placed in second category, which is medium human development country. Still, we have a long way to go, right? So this is the first thing which was highlighted here. And in this year's index, India is ranked 134 out of 193 countries, right? And in these three parameters, which we saw earlier, the life expectancy of India is around 67.7 years, and this has been, these HDI indicators are constantly rising since year 1990. So our life expectancy has increased. Presently, it is 67.7 years. Our expected years of schooling, they have increased, and these are 12.6 years. And the gross national income per capita has also increased, and presently it is around $6,591. Okay, so these are some indicators which show India's progress in Human Development Index. But having said this, there are certain challenges that the author says that, see, these are UN has adopted these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which all countries are expected to achieve by the year 2030, and we are entering 2025 shortly. Okay, in few months, so we have just 5 years to achieve these Sustainable Development Goals. So these are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Now the author says that our progress in Human Development Index or its indicators is quite low. though it is steady, but it is quite low. And what is the reason for it? And when we are able to develop in the indicators of in all these indicators, then only we will be able to meet the parameters of sustainable development goals. For example, see this sustainable development goal 3, it talks about good health and well-being. Sustainable development 4 goal, it talks about quality education. Sustainable development goal 5, it talks about gender equality. Okay, but we are certain challenges which are highlighted in this human development report. In the latest report we will see. Now, what is the reason that despite all the welfare initiatives which the government has taken, there is a slower progress of India in its human development index? Now, let's see these reasons. Firstly, our progress has been slow, as we already saw that presently we are in the category of medium human development. Despite 30 years, more than 30 years have passed, right? So we have a long way to go. And now this is because of certain indicators. There are three indicators we discussed. Now let's talk about first indicator, which is education. See, in this HDI indicators, we are even far below certain countries, our neighbors like China, Bangladesh, and our certain others neighbors also. Okay, in certain indicators, even Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, China, we are behind these countries in these certain indicators. Now, if we talk about education, see what is the challenge? The challenge is that presently, government is spending 3% of India's GDP on education. Though the National Education Policy of 2020 and subsequently certain other reports also, they have said that at least 6% of India's GDP should be spent on education, right? So this is challenge that we have low spending on education, and also there are certain other challenges in education sector that gross there is a low gross enrollment rate, there is a high dropout rate. Okay, there are concerns regarding quality of education. For example, ASER report, this was launched in January this year, the latest report. ASER report is Annual State of Education Report, and this is released by Pratham Foundation, and it primarily deals with the quality of education in rural areas, right? So, as per this latest report, it did a survey of students in the age group of 14 to 18 years in rural districts, and it found that though there are the enrollments in the secondary education institutions, they have increased. More than 86% of children in the age group of 14 to 18 are enrolled in secondary education institutions. However, there is a poor quality of education that majority of these students, they don't know how to solve arithmetic problem of grade 5, right? Grade 5, they are not able to solve, these children in this age group are not able to solve arithmetic problem of grade 5. And also subsequent other reports show that there is a poor quality of educational level in primary education institutions. So there is a lack of foundational and foundational literacy and numeracy. This means that these children, they are not able to even read certain textbooks, right? Or they are not able to do mathematical problems. So we can say there is an issue regarding quality of education. Also, there are certain reports which indicate that our graduates in our country, there is a problem of skilling. Okay, they are poorly skilled. Okay, so they are not eligible to be admitted in uh, by industries, right? So these are certain issues which show the grim condition of education in India. Okay. Now other issues related to healthcare. So in healthcare ecosystem also presently, our expenditure, the central government spends around 1.5% of its GDP in healthcare. However, the National Health Policy of 2017, it said that we should spend at least 3% of our GDP in healthcare. Now, because of this, what is happening? Because of which there is a higher out-of-pocket expenditure for Indian citizens, right? And because of which more than 70% of healthcare space is dominated by private sector. and this is also leading to higher out-of-pocket expenditure for Indian citizen. Other thing is that the insurance percolation is very less, right? Uh, Say for our elderly population, there is a increasing number of elderly population in India. So with no insurance, no health insurance, right? And majority of our poor people, they are employed in informal sectors. So they also lack social security benefits, right? Now, so our healthcare, so there are issues with healthcare system also. And then let's come to our third indicator, which is income inequality. Now, as per the HDR report, or the latest HDR report, it said that the income share of the richest 1% in India is 21.7%. That is 21.7% of India's total income is with richest 1% of India. So it shows, it reflects the gross level of inequality in income, and it is way high compared to the countries in South Asia, and way higher than the global average of 17.5%, right? And it also talks about the gender disparities in human development. So the gender inequality index, which is also released by UNDP, it also shows that the female labor force participation rate in India is presently it's around 28.3%, versus the male labor force participation rate in India is 76.1%. So there is around 50% gap in the labor force participation rate for women. So, as per the data from the latest periodic labor force survey 2020 to 23, this data shows that the female labor force participation rate in India is 37%, and there is an increase in this female labor force participation rate, which was 23% in 2018, right? And it also shows a finding that the the labor force participation rate in rural areas, in the females in rural areas, it is high as compared to females in urban areas. Now, there can be certain reasons for it, so you can look out the reasons. So, so these are the challenges that we have to take a holistic approach. We have to, in order to make progress in the indicators of sustainable development goals, that is good health and good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, decent work, and economic growth. Okay, so reduce inequalities and other social development goals also. We need to take a holistic approach. So, what is the way forward? The way forward could be a holistic approach. For example, in health sector, we have certain schemes also which have been launched by government. For example, Poshan Abhiyan. Poshan Abhiyan was launched by government, central government in 2018, and it aims to take a collaborative approach involving the stakeholders of all the ministries. For example, the stakeholders from Ministry of Jal Shakti, Ministry of Family and Health Welfare, Ministry of Women and Child Development. Okay, so there should be a collaborative approach from all the stakeholders of these ministries in order to tackle these indicators: health, education, Ministry of Education. Okay, and also India, you can also mention various other initiatives by government. For example, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. This is the largest health insurance scheme which has been floated by government to reduce the out of pocket expenditure of Indian population, right? So there are certain other schemes also in health sector, Indradhanush, Mission Indradhanush. Okay, and now in education sector, midday meal scheme by government. Okay, gender equality, decent work, for example, Skill India scheme. Okay, so these scheme, government is doing certain initiatives in order for holistic development of all these indicators, and this is important to achieve sustainable development goals. Okay, now let's move on to our next article for the day, which appeared on the page number 6 of the Hindu. Now this news article, it talks about development and its discontent. That is, there is massive development which is occurring. So in this news article, massive development is occurring in the coastal areas, and this anthropogenic large scale development, this is deteriorating, or this is hampering the habitat of mangroves. Okay, so how these anthropogenic development is hampering the ecosystem, the natural habitat of ecosystem of mangroves. We will see it there. So now this topic is important for our GS paper 1 word geography. Under the syllabus head, changes in critical geographical features and in flora and fauna and the effects of such changes. This is also important for our GS paper 3, environment and biodiversity, under the syllabus head conservation, environment, pollution and degradation. Now in our GS paper 1 world geography, in the year 2019 we found this particular question which talks about discuss the causes of depletion of mangroves and explain their importance in maintaining coastal ecology. So let's see a few facts about mangroves and what is their significance in maintaining coastal ecology, right? So first of all, what are mangroves? Mangroves are halophytes, or these are the salt-tolerant species of plant, salt-tolerant plant communities, which are found in coastal areas of tropical and subtropical areas. They are found in intertidal zones or coastal areas in tropical as well as subtropical areas. Now see, these are salt-tolerant plant species. That is, they have certain ecological adaptations. They have evolved in a way that they are able to survive in these stressful conditions. Mangroves, they are found in marshy areas which are deficient in oxygen, right? For which one ecological adaptation is the presence of pneumatophores. So what are pneumatophores? Pneumatophores are the lateral roots. Now see, this is a mangrove tree and these are lateral roots. So these lateral roots, they come out of these marshy land areas, and these lateral roots, uh, apart from these primary roots, these lateral roots are secondary roots. And these roots, mangroves are able to take oxygen from atmosphere and also absorb nutrients from atmosphere, from air, right? So this is the first ecological adaptation. The second ecological adaptation is buttress roots or plank roots. This mangrove, though it has a shallow root, but its root system is expanded over a large area. So it has buttress roots or roots which are extending over a large area, which is providing this mangrove tree support such that it can these roots provide support and prevents the tree from falling. The third adaptation is limited salt intake. So for limited salt intake, the roots of mangroves, they are impermeable. So impermeable means they do not allow salt to percolate or pass through these roots. Okay, and also they have thick waxy leaves, and they have thick waxy leaves, and their stomatal openings or stomatal openings, they are very small, and because of these small stomatal openings, less water is uh, lost to the environment. Okay, so less transpiration or less water loss because they have these thick waxy leaves. Okay, and also for the reproduction, these mangrove trees, they have certain saplings which attach to the main tree, and after when these saplings they grow, they fall out of this tree and they germinate in the marshy areas. Okay, so these are certain ecological adaptations of mangroves, and let's see a few facts regarding their global distribution. Now these mangroves, they are found in the coastal areas, and this green colored area is the region where these mangroves are prevalent. So if we talk about the global distribution, the largest area under mangrove plantations is in Asia. Asia is followed by Africa and then Northern and Central America. Okay, and about 40% of the global mangrove plantation, these are in only these four countries. And the largest mangrove plantation, they are present in Indonesia. Okay, and now let's see the distribution of mangroves in India. As per the State of Forest Report 2021, the mangrove cover in India is increasing. So, mangrove cover in India presently, as per this report, is 4,992 square kilometer, and it constitutes 0.15% of total area of India. And this mangrove plantation area has increased as compared to previous years. And if we talk about the state-wise mangrove cover, West Bengal has the largest area under mangrove, and West Bengal is followed by Gujarat and Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Andhra Pradesh, and these states are mentioned here. Let's see a few facts regarding mangroves in certain states. See, in Sundarbans, we can find the largest single block of tidal mangroves in the world. So, as we saw, West Bengal has the largest population of mangroves, mangrove plantation. So, this single largest block of mangrove plantation is found in Sundarbans. And apart from it, let's talk about Gujarat. Gujarat has India's second largest area under mangroves. And Gujarat, these mangroves, these are located in Gulf of Kutch and Kori Creek. And Gujarat is famous for dwarf mangroves. Okay. Apart from this, these are certain other facts regarding mangroves that, like in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, there is the highest percent of mangrove which is undisturbed. Okay. And these are certain other facts. You can see it. You can check it out. Now let's talk about that. What is the importance of mangroves? Okay, not Sundarbans. What is the importance of mangroves? Now the first importance is that these mangrove, as we saw that they have extensive root system, right? So these mangroves, they act as a shield or barrier to slow down the speed of waves. So these mangroves, they are effective to check coastal erosion, right? And they prevent coastal erosion, and they also slow down the wave of speeds, and they are very much effective in order to break the energy of waves and prevents the coastal communities from the risk of storm surges, even tsunami, and damage due to floods. Okay. The second importance is that these mangroves, they act as carbon sink. So uh, these mangroves, they have immense potential for carbon sequestration, and these mangroves, they hold up to 4 times carbon as compared to the forested ecosystems like temperate and boreal forest. So they are very much important for carbon sequestration. Other thing, coastal biodiversity. These mangroves, they host enormous coastal diversity, as it can be seen from the facts that in Sundarbans is a rich biodiversity hotspot, right? So they support various fishes, crabs, and various other marine creatures, right? And apart from this, they also support associated ecosystems such as seagrass beds and coral reefs. Apart from it, these mangroves, they are the source of biomass and forest products. So they can be used to provide timber, wood, fruits, fuel, and other minor forest products such as medicine. And they have enormous aesthetic value and tourism potential. Apart from this, mangroves, the roots of mangroves, they trap sediments. So they act as a natural water filter, and they trap the sediments and pollutants from runoff, and they don't let these sediments, as they trap it, they do not let these sediments to run off in Bay of Bengal or in oceans, right? Now this is the importance of mangroves, right? Now let's see that what are the threats these mangrove plantations are facing. The first threat is increasing human population in coastal areas. So by unplanned growth of infrastructure in coastal areas, and which is changing the natural landscape of these regions. So the rising demand for land timber, fodder, fuel, and other forest produce, and for this, these mangrove forests, these are being cut, and these mangrove forests are being cleared, and in some cases there is shrimp farming or fish farming which is being done in the cleared areas. Okay. Other important reason is the discharge of untreated domestic seaways and industrial effluents in the mudflats or in the marshy areas hosting mangrove habitations, and also via the damming of rivers, via the construction of dams, the sediments which are necessary for mangroves for their survival, these sediments are being obstructed. Okay, so this silt flow, which is essential for regeneration and growth of mangroves, these are being obstructed via creation of various dams. Okay, so these are the threats which mangroves are facing. So what is the way forward? Way forward uh, is regeneration of mangrove plantation, for which various countries, various tropical and subtropical countries, they should form an association for restoration of mangrove habitats, and also there should be clear uh, there should people who are living in coastal population, they should strictly adhere to coastal zone regulations. Okay, so this is the way forward. Now see, on the page number 8 of the Hindu, there was an article, a modified universal basic income policy may be more feasible. So For this article, you can refer to this DNS dated 13 September 2024, where Vidushi ma'am has covered this topic of universal basic income. Okay. Now let's move on to our prelims topic. The first topic for our prelims discussion, it appeared on the Science and Technology page of The Hindu. Now this news article said that there is a gut-brain connection related to Parkinson. So Parkinson disease is a progressive degenerative disorder. Okay, disorder in the nervous system. So there are several factors which are associated with the onset of Parkinson disease. Now there is a new study which says that when there is several when there is an issue in gut, that is when the inner lining of digestive system, for example food pipe, esophagus, stomach and intestine, when the inner lining of it is damaged, this can have a direct connection with the onset of Parkinson. This is what the new disease says. Now let's see a few facts about Parkinson disease. Now what is Parkinson disease? Parkinson disease is a progressive neurological disorder which primarily affects two things. The first thing is motor movements. The second thing is non-motor movements. Motor and non-motor movements. Motor movements means that it affects the activities related to coordination and physical movements of any person. If any person is suffering from Parkinson, this disease will impact the motor functions, that is the movement of that person, impair the balance of that person. It will lead to shaking the hands of that person, tremors or shaking hands or shaking limbs, issues in posture, or issues relating the coordination and balance for that person. Secondly, this is also associated with non-motor issues. The non-motor issues are related to certain functions like cognition. That is, there would be memory loss. There would be speech impairment. So these are certain non-motor symptoms, right? Now, what is the reason that why Parkinson disease, like why this disease happens, right? So in Parkinson disease, dopamine, it is related to lowering the dopamine levels in any human. See, what is dopamine? Dopamine is a hormone and it is also a neurotransmitter. So when there is a lower level of dopamine in any individual, in the nervous system of any individual, that person is most likely to suffer Parkinson disease in future. Now see, this is a normal neuron, and see, information exchange between two neurons happens via neurotransmitters. So dopamine is also a neurotransmitter which is responsible for exchange of information from one neuron to other neuron. And when the dopamine's level will fall, this means that this will impact the transmission, the information transmission, and this will lead to the onset of these motor as well as non-motor symptoms in any person, right? Now, so these are certain facts related to Parkinson disease. Now, based on this, let's solve this practice question about Parkinson disease. Now, in the year 2022, UPSC asked a question on COVID-19 pandemic. So, in the science and technology section in prelims, we find questions regarding various diseases. Now, let's solve this question regarding Parkinson. Parkinson is a long-term neurodegenerative disease affecting non-motor systems only. Now, this is an incorrect statement because this neurodegenerative disease, it also affects motor systems. That is, it affects motor as well as non-motor systems. The second statement says that the disease is caused due to the death of neurons and resulting decrease in the production of dopamine. Now, this is a correct statement, as this disease is caused due to the death of neurons and resulting decrease in the production of dopamine. So the correct answer is option B, 2 only. Now let's see the final article for the day, which appeared on the page number 4 of Indian Express. Now in this news article talks about Mohammad Ahmed case. Now he is Mohammad Ahmed, and in this case, see, in the year 2014, there was a verdict which was given by Delhi High Court. So in the year 2014, the Delhi High Court in the Mohammad Ahmed versus the Union of India case 2014 said that the right to health is a fundamental part of right to life. under Article 21 of Indian Constitution. So this boy, he is suffering from a rare disease. This disease is known as Gaucher disease. Okay. Now the Supreme Court said that this court under this ruling directed the government to provide free medical treatment to this boy for his condition. Okay. Now this brings us to certain facts. We should know certain facts that what are rare disease. So rare disease, as its name implies, that what are rare disease? Rare disease are certain diseases which have rare occurrence. There is no particular definition or fixed definition of rare disease in India. However, any disease in India is classified as rare when there is less than 100 patient of that disease in 1 lakh population. Okay, so then that disease will be considered rare disease. The prevalence of rare disease in India is particularly found in tribal populations and also in communities with endogamous communities. Okay, and India has a policy for rare disease, the rare disease policy of 2021. Okay, now let's see a few facts regarding Gaucher disease. Gaucher disease is one of the rare diseases. Other rare diseases are sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, hemophilia, among others. Now let's see what is Gaucher disease. Gaucher disease is a rare genetic disorder which is caused by the deficiency of an enzyme that breaks down fatty substances called lipids. Now see what happens that you must know lysosomes. What are lysosomes? Lysosomes are cell organelles in any body and lysosomes in any cell, and lysosomes are known as suicidal bags of any cell, right? That is any metabolic waste which is generated by cells, it is recycled or it is broken down in lysosomes. Okay. Now see what happens in Gaucher disease. This is a rare genetic disorder where there is a deficiency of an enzyme. The name of this enzyme is written here. Just understand that there is a deficiency of an enzyme, and because of which certain fatty acids, certain fats, they are not able to degrade. Okay, and since because this enzyme is responsible for degradation of these fats, and now there is a deficiency of this enzyme, so these fats will not be degraded. And then what will happen? Eventually, these fats will be deposited in the cells. Okay, so when these fats are deposited, they are deposited in certain organs and tissues in body. They can be deposited in liver, spleen, bone marrow, and sometimes in the brain. And this will cause Gaucher disease. Okay. Now this Gaucher disease, this is caused by a mutation in the GBA gene. So this is a particular kind of gene in which if there is a mutation, this will cause Gaucher disease. Okay. Another important fact is that this disease is an autosomal recessive disorder. This means that autosomal recessive disorder means that this gene, this mutated gene has to be passed from both the parents. That if this mutated gene is passed from both the parents, then only the offspring will have this particular disease. Okay, the defective gene copy must be inherited from both the parents. Okay, so these are certain symptoms of this disease: enlarged spleen, enlarged liver, eye movement disorders, anemia, and extreme tiredness. Okay, now presently there is no cure for this particular disease, and the only cure is enzyme replacement therapy, where this particular enzyme is transplanted in the body. Okay, now these are some facts related to Gaucher disease. Now see, in the year 2021, UPSC asked a question related to hereditary diseases. Now let's solve this practice question, which says that consider the following statement with reference to Gaucher disease. Statement 1. It is a rare genetic disorder caused by a protein with the GBA, caused by a problem with the GBA gene. Now this is a correct statement, as this genetic disorder is caused due to mutation of GBA gene. Second statement says that it is an autosomal dominant disorder in which one parent passes on the abnormal gene to the child. See, this is not autosomal dominant disorder, rather this is autosomal recessive disorder. So in recessive disorder, both parents have to pass this defective gene to the child. Okay, so this statement is incorrect. Now what is the correct statement? The correct statement is option A, 1 only. Now this is the end of today's session. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comment section. Thank you.